Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is At the Helm Sports. I'm your host, Derek Helm. Thank you for joining me for episode 168. Please be sure to follow and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave those 5-star reviews. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Down in the comment section, very simply, who's going to win the Super Bowl? Because I keep going back and forth. Kind of think both teams have a pretty good chance. Obviously, the books do as well with how low the spread is, but that's what we're diving into this episode. We're going to go through the Super Bowl, basically all the possible outcomes, favorite bets, some showdown strategy. It's a great week. I already recorded the waste management. That's underway. So one of my favorite weeks of the year. And for the first time since week one, I actually have someone joining me. So Dave Utnick, how we doing, buddy? Nice to have you back.
Oh, always happy to be here. And, it's haven't been here since preseason. The last real week of football ended 2 weeks ago. So might as well, good time to come back on again now that we have one, novelty game left.
Yeah, and I know you're feeling a little bit under the weather, but I appreciate you joining.
Yeah, no problem, man. There's plenty of stuff to talk about. I mean, the game isn't really that interesting just from a Super Bowl standpoint. I mean, there is stuff to talk about, but ready to dive into some props to take a look at. That way, while you're at your Super Bowl party, you got some sweats on other than just the game total here or, the spread and sides.
Yeah, and you said it. I don't think at the beginning of the year this was the Super Bowl that everybody would have clamored for, but I do think that it could be a very good game. So, it's not the most exciting, but I think we will get a good game out of it. And obviously the spread kind of agrees with that because right now we're looking at Kansas City -1.5. Now that's teetered a little bit of money came in on Philly earlier in the week and it went down to 1, but now it's back to 1.5. And then the total came down from 49.5. We're looking at 48.5 for the total now. Now, I keep going back and forth on this because I think the Eagles are the better team. On paper, just roster top to bottom, they have the better offensive line, they have the better defensive line. Obviously, the Chiefs though have Mahomes and they have the better coach. So that's obviously a huge deal.
I mean, listen,
Where do you see this going?
when you're evaluating talent, I mean, you're spot on. It's the Eagles have the most depth here. When you're looking at the trenches, the Eagles are the more talented team. But when you are looking to place a wager on one of these two teams, you usually look to two places: who's got the better quarterback, who's got the better head coach. And I think undeniably the Chiefs win all around there, and that has nothing to do with my Giants bias against all of the Eagles here. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes versus the world. I mean, betting against them, people love doing it. Then they love to complain about all of the calls that you don't get when you don't bet on the Chiefs. Logic would say that it's time to just kind of go with the current and put your money on the Chiefs. But listen, winning 2 Super Bowls in a row is really tough. It's even more difficult, and don't think it's actually been done to win 3 in a row.
Yeah, and I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. Obviously, it's Mahomes and Reed, and that's what scares you the most. I remember coming on last year before the Super Bowl and making a case for San Francisco, and it was really dumb then because it was kind of narrative driven, but there was no way that, people say that it's rigged and the NFL wants the Chiefs. And I don't know if that's true, but last year it certainly was. That was the initial Taylor Swift whole thing. So you had all the Swifties coming in and you had all these new eyes on football. There was no chance that they wanted the Chiefs to lose last year. I think, obviously we still see the calls but I think it's lost a little bit of his luster. And I honestly could see the NFL coming in here and maybe having some makeup calls and maybe some things going the Eagles' way. Now, that's completely narrative driven, but I could see it because, as I said, I do think the Eagles are a better team. And if everybody's complaining constantly about this and saying the NFL is rigged, I mean, what better way to all of a sudden start throwing flags in the opposite direction just to shut everybody up?
I mean, they already put the Super Bowl colors out there. You got red and green. It was
Oh,
scripted
yeah.
from
Yeah.
years ago. This was predestined to happen this way. So, you create your narratives any way that you want to. But I think at the end of the day, nobody wants to see this game determined by a late roughing the passer call
Yeah.
on Mahomes. I don't, I feel like as we get to crunch time, if this game is in crunch time, that ref might hold that flag this year instead of throwing it like he did in the past. I mean, most of the Chiefs Super Bowls from recollection are all won on that late roughing the passer that you just see gets them into field goal range or whatever they need to do to win the game. I'm really hoping that we don't have another one of those scenarios play out just because it really does leave a bad taste in everybody's mouth. And I mean, let's be honest, nothing is rigged. Not in football. The amount of people that you need to be a part of the overall scheme, it's downright ridiculous. It's just not possible. But when you do have, the themes and the storylines, it's easy to put things together that are coincidence. And of course, it's rigged because of Taylor Swift and Patrick Mahomes is the face of the franchise and the face of the league. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think all that anybody is looking for here, because I don't know if you actually care about who wins this game. I certainly don't. I just want to see a good game, and I want to see this come down to the wire, be entertaining, and of course, get in line with the bets that I've made and make some money here.
Yeah, I lean the Eagles. Just I'd like to see something different. I'm sick of the Chiefs. I don't have Chiefs derangement syndrome where I'm gonna absolutely throw shit at the TV if they win. But yeah, if there is some phantom call at the end of the game, I am gonna be pretty annoyed. And I agree with you that it's not rigged, but I do think from time to time that there is just a little, hey, if it's, 50-50, maybe lean this way. So it's not rigged top to bottom. I agree with you completely there, but I do think there is a little bit of bias that comes in from time to time. But
Yeah, I
I,
mean,
I'm definitely,
you go back into history though. I mean, you earn as a player of Mahomes' caliber, you earn those calls. Tom Brady got them. Shit,
well,
Michael Jordan
that's,
used to get them.
oh yeah. And that's the thing is, you know, obviously this generation, maybe newer football fans, they see the Chiefs, they see these calls. People forget Tom Brady literally got a rule invented for him. Like it happens. You said it, Jordan. Like it's I remember being a Knicks fan and growing up and just being pissed off. That wasn't a foul, but you get the superstar that it's gonna happen.
It's really a shame there was no Twitter in the mid '90s when Jordan was on his run there because man, all the pitchforks would be after him in terms of Jordan gets all the calls, the refs are out, everything is just rigged for the Bulls. And at the end of the day, the Bulls were a dynasty. We are seeing that in the making with the Chiefs here, and you've got to really give credit where it's due. Patrick Mahomes might truly be the best football player that we've ever seen and potentially of all time. And
It's
yeah, it's a
possible.
little bit early in his career to say that, especially as we're coming off of, Tom Brady playing till he's 87 years old over the last, 2 decades here. But Brady did it, and now Mahomes is making some of those accomplishments. I mean, they kind of look like they weren't as magical of feats as they actually were because what we saw from Tom Brady was incredible. And it's
Yeah.
just really kind of amazing that in such a quick time, you always heard there's never going to be the next Jordan until there was a LeBron. There at least was a gap in between those two players. Brady and Mahomes faced off in a Super Bowl where
Yeah.
basically he patched he Brady beat Mahomes and almost passed the torch. He wasn't getting one on Brady, but now Mahomes has his own chance to create his own legacy, and he's done a damn good job in doing so.
Yeah. So if we get into the game, 48.5 is the total. I kind of I leaned towards the over just in a dome. I think, you see how many points Philly puts up week in, week out. The only thing that worries me is both of these teams can go on long drives. They can have long, methodical drives. Kansas City loves to throw the ball underneath. They don't have a ton of explosive plays, whereas the Eagles rely on explosive plays, but Kansas City doesn't really give up a lot of explosive plays. So I could see this potentially being a little bit slower going and maybe comes close to this total, but doesn't exactly go over. What are you thinking as far as game pace and total goes?
I'm pretty sure I'd have to go check back, but I think I bet the over last week when it was even higher than it was today. So my initial lean was one of fandom. I don't want to, we're not here to bet unders. Unders are going to be probably a better value, but you're placing bets for entertainment on a lot of this stuff. And yeah, we'll dive into where some of this value is. Where, yeah, I mean, listen, smart money is usually on the unders. But like you said, this is going to be a ball control game. And Barkley is going to eat up 3 yards a carry, 4 yards a carry until he breaks one for 60. And that's all part of the ball control that the Eagles do. The Chiefs do the same thing. They're throwing underneath. They don't have an explosive running game, but they can still eat up 3, 4 yards a carry between their two backs. And you could see a little bit of a slog here where, just like in any Super Bowl, you're going to see those first few minutes in the first quarter, and I haven't looked at it just yet, but under in the first quarter, probably a good bet because there's going to be a little bit of feeling out period here. There's going to be a little, adjust to the bright lights. It's Barkley's first Super Bowl. Hurts hasn't been back there in a while.
Yeah, but that is one thing I don't think people are giving enough credit. Obviously the Chiefs beat the Eagles before, but
mhm.
they've been in a Super Bowl before. And you said Barkley hasn't, but a lot of this team was in the Super Bowl. So that makes a huge difference coming back the second time. So I don't think that can be underplayed.
It's there, and it will probably just get them into the flow a little bit quicker. But when you have the Super Bowl is just a different style of event. I mean, from the hours and hours of pregame to the lead up to the almost hour of national anthems and random shit that they're doing before the game. It's a lot of waiting time for these players there, and there is that realization that you're dealing with hundreds of millions of people watching. It's human nature to have some jitters, and I don't think it'll affect them for long, like you said. But even the Chiefs will have a little bit of a feeling out period. They were here last year, but it wasn't the full roster. There are going to be some players that are going to have those early game nerves until they get into the swing of things. And I do like looking at, some of those first quarter unders just for that reason. I can see, some explosive plays happening where that score starts to hop pretty quickly as you get towards halftime. And then once you hit halftime, you're dealing with, Kendrick Lamar out there for an hour or whatever it's going to be in an extended halftime show. The Super Bowl is an event. It is not a normal game. And that really leads back to, against everything I was just talking about in terms of overs. But I think the reason why you see the total coming down is because all of those factors played in. It's really hard to get over 50 in terms of everything that's going on there. So, I like the under for now. I'd like to see the over because I'm looking for a better game. But, if I had to place a bet and really, put my money where my mouth is here, it's probably going on the under of that total.
Yeah, and I think if you are looking to bet the over, bet it now because you said it. Obviously a lot of public is going to bet this game, and most of those people are going to do it an hour before the game. They're sitting at the Super Bowl party and talking to everybody, and what do you guys want to bet on? Let's bet the over. Like they're not sitting here all week and going through props. And so I do think that come game time, if you want to bet the under, you're probably going to get a better number. I could see this going back up to the 49.5. So I
Yeah,
would say if you want to go over, go now. If you want to go under, wait closer to the game.
of course. And, like I said before, I was looking to bet overs. I got most of my bets in last week. I was in Florida during the week, so, not in my local betting state, so I didn't even look at it and logged back in when I got back to Jersey here. And a lot of those numbers that I bet over on have skyrocketed. So, yeah, if you're looking for overs, as soon as you finish listening to this, make sure you're hammering your sports book and getting those overs in. But if you've come Sunday morning and you have not been placing overs, just wait. Place your unders as you get closer to the game because those numbers are really going to start to jump as a lot of that volume comes in on Sunday from your, shitter guy placing a couple of bets, while he's just sitting there right before the game comes in. Like you said, maybe a couple of your buddies want to put a parlay together. Everyone's betting those overs because everyone's thinking the same thing. Let's see a great game, and all of those lines are going to shift drastically Sunday morning. So definitely get in there earlier. My goal is to get everything wrapped up by Saturday night because I don't think I want to touch anything come Sunday.
Yeah. So if we jumped into bets yesterday on Twitter, on X, whatever you want to call it, I put out a tweet and basically said, I heard some people talking about betting Saquon MVP. Plus 250 is A, terrible, terrible value. B, running backs rarely win. I think Terrell Davis was the last one to win MVP. So he would have to absolutely go off for him to win MVP. And at plus 250, that's really not even good value for the chances of it happening. So what I said was, if you're going to do that, instead of that, bet him over 110 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then obviously if he's going to win MVP, the Eagles have to win. So put the Eagles money line on that. That's plus 625. So I mean, you get way more value by doing it that way. So just to put that out there right off the bat, I don't think that I'm necessarily going to bet that. I already do have a Saquon number, but if you're thinking about betting the Saquon MVP at plus 250, definitely just parlay it up and put it the way I just did, because you're getting way more value. What are
I,
your thoughts on that?
I'm glad you started with MVP because that's where I've got a lot. This is where I've got some of my favorite bets of the week and probably my most exposure so far. I saw that Saquon number and skipped right over it. Wanted to have nothing to do with Saquon at that short of odds for MVP. My first bet was Travis Kelsey. I hit it at 17. I hit it at 18. I've hit it a couple of times actually. Kelsey MVP retires after the game. Maybe he proposes to Taylor Swift. I'm all about narrative street. I think if the Chiefs win, that there is a good chance that if it's not going to Mahomes, which he's obviously the betting favorite, that Kelsey is a really good bet in terms of Super Bowl MVP. Eagles play a ton of zone defense. Kelsey eats zone defense and is their leading receiver up against zone. So all of those things are going to line up in addition to your narrative street. Really like the Kelsey bet. It's actually my favorite bet of the week in terms of MVP. But I did also want to get some money on the Eagles just in case this game goes the other way. And this morning I got Jalen Hurts at 4-1 for MVP.
That's pretty good,
It,
because I bet him last week at 3-1. That's the only MVP bet I've actually made.
I mean, when you look at numbers, it's usually one of the two quarterbacks.
Yeah,
Mahomes at
absolutely.
Mahomes at almost even money. Yeah, that's no fun. And he's won a couple already. I don't need to be paying even money for Mahomes to win another Super Bowl. I mean, you might as well just bet the money line at that point then. But getting the other quarterback there, where it's really a coin flip in this game, if you see this game as a coin flip of who are the biggest two favorites to win MVP, it should be Mahomes and Hurts. And having Hurts at four to
Absolutely.
one and Mahomes at even money, I mean, there's just too much value on Mahomes or on Hurts rather at 4-1 for me to pass up.
I
So I
agree.
hit that today. And Kelsey, again, a little bit of a longer shot, but I'm betting on someone other than Mahomes winning the Super Bowl. He obviously comes to play in the playoffs. And if you look at the other options on the Chiefs, yeah, I mean, I've seen some stuff about defensive players and other nonsense that just isn't going to hit. How many players can really win an MVP on the
and
Chiefs? You're
and that
looking
and
at
that's the thing with the defensive players, because I actually, I mean, this is basically where I started my betting journey. Was I would go absolutely ape shit on the Super Bowl, and I would bet defensive guys. I would bet, actually, I think I hit Von Miller the one year, so that was good, but their odds are nowhere near what they actually should be for what their chances are. It's similar to the first touchdown market. It's just everything is so depleted compared to what the actual odds really are.
I saw Chris Jones at like 65-1, and I think he was the shortest of all the
Yeah, like
defensive
that's
players. And how often is that going to happen? It's
yeah,
it's not the value is just not there. And yeah, it's fun. We bet golf 65-1 is nothing on us, but 65-1 usually doesn't hit.
yeah,
And these there's the script needs to go, and script, no pun intended there, needs to go so specific for Jones to win the MVP. And it could just as easily be anybody else on that defense there, where your money is spread too thin. I mean, if you want to bet a defensive player, I think you're better off going just to the position markets and betting any defensive player. I don't
yeah.
like that bet, But if I was going to go in that direction, I would rather bet any defensive player versus a specific defensive player. But my favorite bet, Kelsey, MVP. Might even see if that number drifts again. I'll probably hit it again because I am
Yeah,
all
I
about
don't
narrative
mind
street.
Kelsey. I think if you're gonna go someone outside of the quarterbacks, that probably makes the most sense, especially the fact that part of it is fan voting. You know, you got, I think it's 16 writers. So you said it, the narrative street, you know, he rides off into the sunset, and I could see it. The only issue is he would have to be so far and away clearly the MVP to get it over Mahomes. You know, he's got to have 10 for 150 and two, and Mahomes only throws 2 touchdowns and 200 yards. Like, we saw it with James White had the best fantasy performance by a running back ever in a Super Bowl. And I remember betting James White, and he didn't win MVP. Tom Brady did. And everything went through James White. That was pretty
Hold on a
frustrating.
second. What pop star was James White dating at the time? And like you said, and I didn't even think of
That's
it when I
fair.
was
It's fair, but
when I put
still,
my bet in, I didn't even think about what you just said there. I forgot about the fan vote. Who is the most recognizable face in football at the moment?
I still think it is Patrick Mahomes.
I disagree. I think within our circle and
No,
people
I
that
think just sports in general. Anyone that knows sports knows Patrick Mahomes. Now, granted, yes, there's people that don't know anything about football that know Travis Kelsey. So maybe.
he's way more elevated in his status than he should be. Because
Oh,
yes, he is
absolutely.
probably one of the best three tight ends of all time. But I mean, he is probably the most recognizable face, in my opinion, in football right now. And if there is fan voting, and this is a very public event, that I can see a lot of that going in that direction. And really, for me, I mean, the most likely outcome is Mahomes winning the Super Bowl. But we're here to place fun bets. Even money is not fun, and I'm
No, and
betting
that's
that.
what I said. I think there's enough value that if you're gonna bet someone other than Mahomes, it's definitely him, without a
Yeah,
doubt.
and that's why I went to the
I've
quarterback
heard
on the
I've
other
heard
side.
people bring up Kareem Hunt, and a running back is not going to win it. Like, Barkley is one thing. Barkley can literally single handedly win the game. Kareem Hunt is not going to be it. I don't think. And
He's
again,
got he's got
relative to
no
the actual
explosiveness.
odds,
He's got no explosiveness. I mean,
yeah.
if he scores three touchdowns, they could be for 35 yards.
Yeah.
And I still don't think that gets him there. I mean, you're looking
I
at
mean, granted, if it's the only 3 touchdowns that they score, then yeah, but I don't
fair,
really see that happening.
fair. So I don't see it with Hunt. I mean, he might not even get all the rushing touchdowns. You could get one to Worthy. You could get one to Isaiah Pacheco if he's feeling a little bit better off for another couple of weeks here. I just don't like a lot of the other weapons, and you're spinning the roulette wheel with the rest of their receivers too.
Yep.
Worthy at longer odds is a really good one, but like you said, if Worthy goes for 102 touchdowns, it's still probably Mahomes. I think
Yeah,
Kelsey's the only player that actually can get over Mahomes in that voting there.
I agree. So if we dive into some of the bets I've made so far, right after the AFC NFC Championship, I bet Barkley over 124.5 yards, rushing yards at plus 133. You could still get a similar number. Now, basically, it was knee jerk reaction just seeing James Cook run for 6.5 yards against this Kansas City defense. James Cook is not Saquon Barkley. So I've softened my stance on this a little bit. I don't love him to absolutely run all over them, but I've heard a lot of people talking about, they haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher all year, except for, I think maybe Lamar did it. But you had Mixon ran for 88 yards. You had Cook ran for 80, and both of those teams ended up getting behind and basically abandoning the run altogether. So I think Barkley's a completely different animal. So if you wanted to, right now I think it's minus 120 for 110 yards. I'd rather just bump it up and take an alt line at plus money, because if he's going to go off, he's going to go off. Otherwise, if they sell out to stop him, I also took Hurts over 200.5 passing yards. And I actually like that one quite a bit as well. That's not an asinine number. I do think that if I'm Philly, I'm coming out of the gates and I am running play action to Saquon right on the very first play and throwing a bomb to AJ Brown just right off the bat to get those safeties backing up. And just I think they should come out very, very aggressive. And I do think that they will try to throw the ball a little bit more than they have to keep Kansas City off balance a little bit and then maybe rely on Barkley later in the game. And then let's say the Chiefs do get out to a lead. 200 passing yards is not that much. So I do actually like that for Hurts there. What do you got as far as props go?
So I think I was looking at a couple of different ones. Anytime touchdown was one market that again I hit probably as soon as these lines were posted. I got Jalen Hurts to anytime touchdown at even money. I think that's a really good bet. I checked before we jumped on. I think that's down to like one minus 115 now, but I'm okay with the juice on that. If the regardless of how this goes, the touch push is in play for Hurts to get into the end zone, even if Barkley is your MVP and is running all over the field. Barkley frequently is down at the one, and it's not just Barkley. Any of their, if they get within the 2 to 3 yard line, there's nothing fancy going on there. You're going to
So Hurts
see the
Hurts
touch
is
push.
minus 110 right now.
I still like that number even better.
Yeah,
Well,
yep.
that number's, I
Not
mean,
better
yeah,
than even, but yeah, better
I
than
like it better than
115.
minus 115, but I do like
Yep.
anytime touchdown for Jalen Hurts. Let's see what else I put together here. Since I've got Hurts and Kelsey as some of my MVP bets here, I bet both of them to score 2 touchdowns in the game. I threw in Xavier Worthy to rush for more than 6.5, and that pays 87 to 1. So if you're looking for a little bit of a lotto ticket there, I can
Yeah, but
see.
that's what the Super Bowl's all about.
I mean, we're here for lotto tickets. That's why we're on this show talking about it. We're not here
Absolutely.
to drop on even money bets, but did parlay that together, but do like all those individually too. Obviously, if I like, the path for Kelsey to get MVP is 2 touchdowns. I don't think you can parlay those together, but that is another way if you want to look at getting some investment on Kelsey. I do like AJ Brown anytime touchdown. I think you are looking at big plays when you are talking about beating the Chiefs here. I've seen a lot of hype on Devonta Smith, and when it's put up or shut up time, AJ Brown is the alpha, and he's trusted. He's big, and he makes plays. I like anytime touchdown for AJ Brown. I have it at one plus 180. I haven't looked to see where that is recently.
I'll tell you right now. It is 170.
Okay. So still pretty good. You're getting plus money on wide receiver one. If you're going to stick around with, maybe we can add those two together. Jalen Hurts over passing touchdowns. You got the AJ Brown um, anytime touchdown to boost that up a little bit. Really like Dallas Goedert in this game. Took him over 4.5 receptions. And I also like a lot of the props on Xavier Worthy. If you are going to beat the Eagles without Kelsey, or if Kelsey does lay a dud, Worthy has emerged as their wide receiver one, especially down the stretch here. He's fast. The Chiefs have had plenty of time to scheme out plays where I'm sure there's going to be a couple of designed plays for Xavier Worthy, whether that is rushing plays or shovel passes, something along those lines to let him use his speed and space. So, like a lot of the props on Worthy as well. And that's pretty much it. I mean, we got some nonsense mixed in here, but there's a couple of players that I'm really focusing on to kind of, push all of those narratives together and really like AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts. I'm not fading Saquon Barkley. That has not treated me well at all this year. I'm smarter than that. But like you said, I think that at some point Hurts is going to have to really step up in the passing game. And I like Brown over Devonta Smith in that case. And his checkdowns as his safety valve to Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, I took Goddard over 50 and a half receiving yards. Same thing. I just think this Chiefs defense tries to limit the deep passes, and he probably gets peppered. So I do like him. And Kansas City has actually been one of the worst teams against the tight end all year. I don't know why. Well, I do know why the Bills didn't capitalize on that because their tight ends suck. Yeah, that's right. Kincaid, terrible. But I also took Hopkins over 1.5 receptions, got that at plus 126. I hear a lot of people talking about Juju. I mean, all of these guys, you're basically playing Russian roulette here with these wide receivers on Kansas City outside of Worthy and Kelsey. And I love your Worthy call. I do think he's going to be involved quite a bit. I'm going to use him quite a bit in Showdown. When we get to that, we'll go through that. But I think Hopkins, perennially just one of the best wide receivers in football. You know how much this means to him playing in a Super Bowl. I could see them coming out on the first drive and just giving him the first drive just because. And you could hit this number literally on the first drive over 1.5 receptions. So
Hmm.
I actually do like Hopkins. I don't love him going over or alt lines or laddering, or I don't even really like him that much from a DraftKings standpoint and Showdown. But I think this 1.5 is definitely doable, and you're getting it plus 126 on FanDuel. So I actually like that one quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean he was kind of been phased out, and
Mm-hmm.
he's been dealing with that injury since the beginning of the year. But
Mm-hmm.
his hands are fine, and if he's gonna, if he just needs a first down, Mahomes is gonna go to the players he trusts. I mean, case in point, like you were talking about with Juju, and I think Juju is another player that if you missed his overs last week, it's probably too late. He might be one I might start looking at unders on Sunday and see if I can catch a middle, because I think I caught him at. I had it up here before. What was this? Over 13 and a half receiving. Hang
Yeah, I
on.
think that's what it was.
I got 14 and a half, and I'm sure
Yeah,
that
now
number
it
has drifted since.
so now it is 14.5, but it's juiced to minus 135.
No, yeah, I think I might have even what I have here might even be an alt. So I don't. He's just tough. I mean, Juju was so good at one point, and yeah, I mean, he's someone I would ladder though, because I think he's got big play potential, way more than Hopkins does. Hopkins is going to get you, that 5 yard catch on 3rd and 4. But Juju, as we saw in the championship game, I mean, he had what, two separate catches for over like 20 yards apiece. He's definitely worth laddering if that's somewhere you want to go. But if you're not, interested in that route, I wouldn't be opposed to fading him altogether and just betting his unders. I bet Jahan Dotson unders because he's just not
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah, what is he at?
Um,
5 catches all year?
yeah, I've seen it anywhere between like 3.5 yards receiving and under that, and all those numbers are fine. If he got completely shut out in that game, I think that's more likely than him grabbing a catch.
Yeah, you're basically saying is he going to get a catch or not? And more times than often he's not getting anything anyway. And what you said about Juju laddering just before we move on, I just as I said, I'll take the Hopkins over 1.5 if he gets 2 catches. Cool. I'm not investing in anybody in that Chiefs passing game outside of Kelsey and Worthy. I just, it could be literally anybody. So a catch or two, 10 yards, that's one thing if you want to take a shot, if you want to call your shot on those guys. But I don't know if I like the idea of laddering anybody outside of Worthy and Kelsey on that because who fucking knows?
I mean, there's just so much opportunity. I mean, you've got Juju you can ladder. Even Hollywood Brown has been involved. His
See, he's someone I want to see where his number gets to on Sunday. That's someone I think I might bet unders on because this secondary is good for the Eagles, and he's been getting targets, but he hasn't been doing much with them. So I actually I think he might be one I might be targeting some unders a little bit later in the week.
DeAndre Hopkins is plus 260 for 25 yards.
See, that's too much for me. Just
Yeah, you're right.
give me 2 catches. Give me 2 catches. That's it. 2 catches on the first drive. Good job, D Hop.
two,
Welcome to the Super Bowl. You did so
two,
good.
two catches.
Congratulations.
Yeah, 2 catches for 8 yards is way more likely
Yeah,
than
that's it. That's it.
his 4 for 25 or whatever it's going to take him to get all the way up to 25.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think we covered a lot of those players that I'm kind of invested in for the week there. I also have, in addition to Hurts and Kelsey for 2 touchdowns each. I do have Kelsey and Barkley for 2 touchdowns each at 28 to 1. These are consolidated offenses. I do like the multiple touchdown market. Might even want to put a sprinkle on Barkley at 3 touchdowns if you're really trying to get frisky. But if there is going to be consolidation within touchdowns, I like, Kelsey. I like Barkley. I like Hurts in terms of where that volume is really going to, consolidate to get multiple touchdowns in that game. And 2 touch pushes, or, maybe they're at the 7 yard line. Barkley with 2 7 yard touchdown runs. I can see paths to both.
Yeah, I don't hate it. And I bet Mahomes over 5.5 rush attempts. Just we see it all the time, especially in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. He takes off a lot.
And
And
then
I
it includes kneel downs.
exactly. That's where I was gonna go. And you know, it's juiced a little bit now. I think it's 130 to the 5.5, but I'd still be fine with that. I think that's a pretty safe bet. And then I've been doing it all playoffs. Longest rush for him over 12.5 yards because he's gonna take off. He's gonna pretend like he's gonna slide or go out of bounds, and nobody's gonna touch him, and he's just gonna get a couple extra yards. Although in the AFC Championship, I bet him over 12.5, and he had 12 exactly, even though I know for a fact that one of his runs was 14 yards and they gave him 12. But that's beside the point. Like it in this one too, 12.5 longest rush. And honestly, I'm considering, haven't really looked too much at the first touchdowns yet, but I'm considering Mahomes' first touchdown. I think I saw it at 18 to 1 on one book. I might have even seen it at 20 somewhere. I hit it a couple years ago. I think it was it to Tampa Bay?
Stack.
I don't even remember. It was first touchdown, but we see him, if they're inside the 10-yard line, he's not afraid to take off. Obviously, he could score touchdowns. So first touchdown, 20 to 1. I like
Was
that
it
value more than one of the random receivers on the Chiefs.
was it Matt Stafford?
No, I hit Mahomes in one. I think it might have been the Tampa Bay Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, he did
Or
hit
no,
one at.
that was Gronkowski. Nope.
Yeah, Gronkowski hit
So
that one.
was it the
I mean,
Eagles?
I like
I'd
QB
have to
first.
look.
I think he first touchdown. He was first touchdown in one of the playoff games.
Yeah, no, but I'm pretty sure I hit him in the Super Bowl. It was because it was right after I hit an outright and I hit Mahomes' first touchdown, and it was a wonderful hour. I think it was the year Kepka won, so I could look it up, but it's really not that important.
Yeah, it's really a shame what happened to the first touchdown market, where that was
Yeah, it's
something that
gross.
I really enjoyed playing in years past. I mean, I'm looking at this now. You got on DraftKings, Mahomes is 18 and Goddard is 19. I mean, I would think Goddard is more likely in that scenario. Obviously, the Chiefs' odds are, bet down a little bit there,
I
but
might bet both of those.
yeah, I mean, that's pretty much when I look at first touchdown, I'm scrolling above 15 to 1, and that's what I want to do.
Yeah, generally,
And
or you can get
and
away with betting more than one if you're up above 15.
yeah, and it's been losing all
And
year because chalk has gone
yeah,
first
so that's what I
touchdown
was gonna say.
all
Is
day
it if
long.
you wanted to go with a Hertz and just whatever you were gonna put on Goddard and Kelsey, just put it on Hertz. That makes sense too. I guess if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, having Saquon, Hurts, Hunt, and Kelsey all under 10 to 1 for first touchdown. I mean, it's just a market I'm not really that invested in anymore.
Yeah,
Um, there's the last touchdown market if you want to look at backup running backs, but there really isn't a ton of value in the first touchdown market anymore. I mean, even someone like Juju, who's got, I mean, I don't have it pulled up, but how many touchdowns does he even have this year? He's 30 to 1. Like he should be 50.
well, that was like I said. I mean, the Super Bowl used to be that was when I really used to bet it. When the Packers won, I hit Jordy Nelson, and that was before he was Jordy Nelson. I think he was 35 to 1 in that Super Bowl. Like those were the golden days of first touchdown. Now it, basically he'd be probably 18 to 1 in modern day.
One interesting one as I'm scrolling down the board, I think I bet this last week also. Justin Watson, first touchdown,
That's interesting
60
because
to
he
1.
just randomly shows up and just that's where he will catch the ball is in the end zone.
It'll be his only catch of the game and, one of his like 5 snaps of the game, but for some reason he's getting end zone targets.
Yep,
So don't hate that
exactly.
at all.
Any other props you like or might consider, or you want to move on to Showdown?
You got me on the her Mahomes rushing attempts. I'm with you there. Kareem Hunt receptions at 1.5, also a
That's
pretty good
interesting
number.
too.
If Pacheco isn't healthy, Hunt's just going to be on the field, and he could dumb luck his way into 2 catches here. But I think we covered most of them. I do like a little bit of the Barkley receiving, especially if you think that the Chiefs are going to win this game. But I think we covered most of it. Jake Elliott, 2 field goals made. I think that's the only other one that I haven't. I think we
I kind of
covered.
like Butker because Elliott worries me because they do the tush push so often and go for it on fourth down, whereas the Chiefs will take the 3 points. So I'd probably prefer Butker a little bit in that one. I was actually even considering making that bet.
Yeah, no, it's the special teams market's no fun, but was looking
Nah.
at if we are looking at a game that's going to be going under, a game that's going under is probably going to have a couple of field goals made. Hey, you can put Butker, Elliott, 2 field goals apiece and go bet the under and have yourself a day.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, if we move on to DraftKings, we can take a look at Showdown here. Now, obviously, Saquon Barkley is at the top. If you want to use him in your captain spot, it is going to cost $18,000. Now, that is ridiculous. You have an average remaining salary of $6,400. To put that in perspective, you could get Kareem Hunt, and then below that is basically you're looking at Goddard would be best case scenario. You're looking at kickers or just one of the random Kansas City guys. So I do think that Barkley at captain is not the best route this week. Now, if you're in large field and you just want to you're making 20 lineups or 150 lineups, maybe you go Barkley and you just do as many iterations as you possibly can and shotgun approach it and hope for the best. But I think if you're playing single entry, if you're only playing 3, 5 lineups, I think getting exposure to Barkley obviously makes sense. It's scary to fade him, but I think there's other places you can go. I mean, even if you went Hertz, he's 15.6, so it's $2,400 more dollars. That goes a long way on this slate. But if we're just kind of thinking this out, because obviously Showdown is just we're thinking about game flow. We're trying, I know it's cliche, but trying to tell a story with the lineup. And I do think that I actually, as we said, we like Goddard to get a good amount of targets here. I think if you go with him, he's only $8,700 at the captain. That allows you a lot of wiggle room in your lineup. Would you be opposed of going all the way down to him, or do you think that could actually make a little bit of sense here?
I mean, typically when I play Showdown, I'm not playing quarterback captain, but that's unless we've got running quarterbacks. I will probably break those roles this week and probably mix in Hurts and Mahomes into the captain spot. You're looking at just raw points here, and I wouldn't fade. Well, I'm okay with fading Bark. Well, probably not. Not okay with fading Barkley in the captain spot. Barkley is Barkley is gonna be extremely high owned. I like him more as a flex play because we are just looking at raw points. For a number of players to outscore Barkley is going to be really difficult here. And the really shitty thing about the Eagles is, especially for this showdown slate, they don't have a lot of guys. And there's not a lot of guys that are going to be scoring points for you. It's Devonta Smith, it's Dallas Goddard, it's AJ Brown, it's Jalen Hurts, and Barkley. And there is a very, very small path to any other player getting over 10 points outside of the kickers and defenses. There's just no other options there. I mean, I've heard Grant Calcaterra's name thrown around over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, that's not a captain play, but
I think he'll be actually included quite a bit in Barkley captain lineups just because he's $1,000, and it's just at that point you're hoping Barkley goes off. Calcaterra just gets you even a catch or two, or if he catches a touchdown, you're golden, obviously, at 1,000. But I mean, Justin Watson below him at 600, you can make a case to maybe go with those guys, but I would just say if you are playing Barkley at captain, you probably have to play those guys. So that's probably a pretty popular combination. So I'd just be aware of that depending on how many people are in a contest that you're playing.
And there's nobody below Justin Watson that you even really want to play.
No.
And there's a couple of guys in this area, Justin Watson at 600, Calcaterra at 1,000, Samaje Perine at 1,200, Juju Smith-Schuster at 2,000. If you really want to go all the way up to Noah Gray at 2,800, then great. Have we gotten any type of news on Eagles backup running back?
So Gainwell is practicing as of today. He still has to clear concussion protocol. It's the Super Bowl. I mean, we see it all the time in the playoffs. Concussions don't exist. So I'm expecting him to play. But as of right now, he does still have to clear concussion protocol.
And
I do think that if he does go, he's a good play. And I think you can actually pair him with Barkley. And a lot of people won't be playing him, period, but especially with Barkley. And I do think that at his price, he can pay off with Barkley still going off.
his price is 3,400.
Mm-hmm.
That's and you're looking at going up to the Chiefs at 4,000 from there. Like I said, this bottom end is going to be really tough to mix and match. I mean, I don't think we're going to be getting random touchdowns from Johnny Wilson or any of the creative player wide receivers that the Eagles have on their depth here with that guy Smith or whatever the hell his name is. Um, I just don't love it a lot. I will probably not be too exposed to this game in Showdown just because it's tough. I like playing Showdown where I'm going to leave money on the table. I like finding a player around $1,000 and below that I can kind of throw in there, hope he gets me 5, 7 points, and then just jam in the best players for raw points across the board. Save some, leave some salary on the table. Try to get unique. And the one thing that I would just urge everybody when you're looking at what you're playing in Showdown, contest selection is so important. You're going to get dupes. You're going to get a ton of dupes in terms of any large field contest that you're playing. And I think it was the Chiefs Niners Super Bowl. I did really well on it. I think I was like a couple of points off the optimal, chopped for a few $100s, and with 46 of my closest friends in what would have been second place, or probably was even more than that. But it is a really tough path to success. You're not going to be unique in this one, so already, that EV is being cut a little bit for you. So I don't know. I mean, you get to play a lot more of those options on the Chiefs, where you can mix and match because you don't know who the hell they're going to be throwing to and who's going to be scoring points. You have two viable running backs. You got a handful of viable pass catchers on the Chiefs. That's a place I'd probably be rather a little bit more exposed in those builds of, 4-2 Chiefs to Eagles. But me and everybody else are on the same page here because when you try to flip the builds with the Eagles, I mean, finding 4 Eagles that you like is going to be really tough, especially if you're putting Barkley in the captain spot.
Yeah, they're just so expensive. I mean, you have Barkley, Hurts, and A.J. Brown are 3 of the 4 most expensive on the slate. So it's definitely tough. I mean, to get 2 of them in your lineup. But I think the most popular, I do think Mahomes and Kelsey will be pretty popular at the captain. I think Goddard might be just because of what I said with the price of what he allows you. You put a Hurts and Goddard, and that leaves you, what did I say? Goddard at captain with Hurts leaves you 7,725. So that leaves you $1,300 more than Saquon just a captain. So you have 2 players there and still have more money per player than if you just put Barkley in. So
Hey,
I think that allows you quite a bit.
it does. And, that range in terms of the captain spot is a nice place for upside. While you might not get the largest point total, I think salary is way more important to be able to
Mm-hmm.
get those other pieces. So putting in a Goddard, a captain, putting in Hollywood Brown, a captain, shit, Harrison Butker, captain, even though that's not something I usually do.
Nah, I don't know about
Um,
kicker captains.
It's
People love the defense on like a random shitty Thursday night. They love the defense
I
captain.
mean
But
it's not sexy, but
if you're going large field, like you said, you're most likely going to get duped. So if you're playing like the Millie Maker or something like that, get fucking nuts. Do whatever you want. I mean, something crazy happens, you know, why not?
if you spend all of your salary, I guarantee you are duped relentlessly. So that will be my only
Probably.
showdown feedback for you there. But I don't love the punt captains. I really don't like many of these guys that are that cheap. We talked about Justin Watson. I don't think Justin Watson's going to be winning you anything, even at $900 in the captain spot. That path to success and him getting there, even with the salary, because then you could probably put Watson in the captain and then get Kelsey, Barkley, both quarterbacks all piled in there. It'll allow you the flexibility to do that. But those people that are doing that, all are going to have the same lineup too. So it is really a tough way. And, I like the game of Showdown because it is a puzzle that you want to try to unscramble or put together, or whatever the hell the adage is there. But it's an
All that.
interesting slate. Um, I just, it's tough. It is really tough. And
Absolutely.
I don't love a lot of it. Kareem Hunt, maybe if you're looking at
That
savings, but
that's actually that was where I was going next. I do think most people are going to build through Mahomes and they're going to take shots with those random guys. They're most likely it's going to be Mahomes with a Kelsey, Worthy, or Hollywood. And then in larger field stuff, you'll see people, D Hop or Justin Watson. I do think Juju gets pretty popular. So I do like Hunt there. I think, again, if you're playing Millie Maker stuff, you can maybe go Pacheco. Hope he falls in the end zone twice. I don't love it. But if I was going to go captain and use someone in the running game, I do think it would be Hunt. I think that actually makes quite a bit of sense there. And then, as you were saying before, too, like these Kansas City wide receivers, you have no idea what any of them are going to do or if any of them are going to do anything. And if Mahomes spreads it around and each one of them get a catch or two, these kickers and defenses could actually pay off and score double, even triple what some of these wide receivers could do. So there are some ways you could get different here. It's not the easiest or funnest slate, but I definitely think there are ways that you can get different here.
yeah. And as you go down that list, I mean, I think and we've no surprise to what we talked about. I think I like Juju the best out of these cheaper options here, just for his upside. Hopkins is just not going to get you there in terms of the volume needed to be a successful captain, and he's also like double the price too. But that also means Juju is going to be insanely popular. Can see a lot of people playing Calcaterra and all those guys that we just played are just named off, but it's all the same guys over and over again. I mean, you can go Jahan Dotson, who won't catch a pass if you want to throw him in your captain spot to save some money, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah. So just to kind of go through some builds, as I said, I like the Goddard, so I built it out a little bit here. I think most people that go Goddard and captain are gonna probably go with Devontae Smith also. So it'll be a Hurts, Goddard, Smith. You could throw AJ Brown in there, and you go Goddard captain, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown as your Eagles exposure, and then that leaves you enough for Kelsey, Hunt, and Butker, and you're still leaving 900 on the table. So you're not using the full allotment of salary. I do think that a lot of these guys will be popular. I don't think Hunt is that crazy. Butker will be meh. And if you're leaving 900 on the table, as I said, I think Goddard and Smith are a little bit more popular with Hurts than I think if people are playing AJ Brown, it's probably just Hurts and AJ Brown, or maybe AJ Brown in the captain. So I think I actually kind of like that lineup there. But just as an example of some ways that you can use Goddard to get exposure of some of the higher scorers on this slate, I think that is actually a way to go here, because if we just change that around and we put AJ Brown as the captain, then we're in trouble.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think Goddard's going to end up getting steamed a little bit just because it allows you to do so much. I mean, I can fit, and I would never play this lineup, but you put Goddard in with Hurts and Brown. Actually, shit, you probably don't want to play Goddard with Hurts and Brown. I feel like you got to get Barkley in there, right? And it's the same thing. It's because Barkley's still going to get you the raw points. It allows you to still get. Actually, no, you can't get everybody in. So take Barkley out, put Goddard in there with Brown, and that sends you down. You put in Kelsey and Mahomes. You got $2,300 left. Puts you back in that Juju Smith-Schuster range with those handful of players that we talked about, and it's the same build, and that's the problem with it. But it does look a lot more palatable when you're trying to fit in a Goddard captain versus trying to put in the Barkley captain or the AJ Brown captain in with Hurts. Now, you try to put in Kelsey or Mahomes because it can't be both. You'll probably want to put in a running back from there. And you're really dumpster diving in that really low range where there's only, a couple of options for you to really play. Again, getting different is going to be a real challenge. So it's an interesting slate, especially with game theory, but I don't love it because the Eagles are just not that fun. Even when I was looking at some of those playoff best ball teams, which went very poorly, trying to get Eagles players, there's only a couple of guys that you really want to get. And anyone who's in the draft room with you that's trying to get Eagles players, you're all fighting over the same four guys. So
Yep.
it's really tough to play the Eagles.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you can find a way to do it, again, it's the Eagles guys are so expensive. But I think if you can somehow get Hurts and Barkley in the same lineup, not necessarily a captain, because then you literally can't play anybody. But if you have the two of them at flex, you potentially could get all of the points from the Eagles. So if you find the Chiefs that you like to match with those two, I don't think the two of them will be paired as much together. So just another way to potentially get different there.
Pure punt play, $200. Peyton Hendershot. The only thing I like under $900.
There you go.
Yeah, he's good for 2 points, maybe.
Probably not, but why not?
You're probably right.
Yeah, no, I think the lowest I would go would probably be Watson at 600, and I don't even love that. I mean, P Ryan could be interesting at 1200. In that instance, I would say you want to build a lineup where maybe you do go Barkley captain, and like I said, maybe you have Hurts and Barkley, and you just say that the Eagles just run train and actually get up, and then P Ryan is in as Kansas City is playing catch up. So I think he could come into play if you're building a lineup where the Eagles are rolling and Kansas City has to play catch up late, because in any other game script other than somebody getting injured, I don't see P Ryan getting a lot of work. But if they do have to pass a lot, I could see him actually being in there quite a bit.
Yeah, and especially if Pacheco isn't that healthy. I mean, P. Ryan will turn into that third down back. He's probably good paired with Mahomes. Either Mahomes in the captain spot. I wouldn't play P. Ryan in the captain, but maybe with both of them in the flex. I don't mind P. Ryan there. And we were just circling back on the Chiefs running backs again. I wouldn't play Pacheco and Hunt together. I think they both take away from each other's upside, especially with so much unknown around Pacheco. His only path to success is him actually getting a huge snap share. I don't think we're in a 50-50 scenario where both of them are going to score a touchdown, because that's what you would need for them to be in the same lineup. I think it's going to be one or the other. And if you really like Hunt, I would be fading Pacheco and vice versa.
Agreed. All right. Well, I think that's a pretty good overview of the Super Bowl. Went through the bets, went through Showdown. It's a good time. It's always fun. It's basically a holiday. It's so stupid at this point that we have 2 weeks in between and we still can't do it on a Saturday. Like, the whole point of it being on a fucking Sunday was because they played the week before. You wanted to give them a full week. Now we have a whole entire week in between. So make it a Saturday. Come on. What are we doing here?
One of these days, and we're all getting old. This game doesn't end that late on a Sunday, where work is still going to be tough on a Monday. But I get
Listen,
it.
with the amount of food and beverage that goes down my throat, work is tough on Monday.
You're still gonna be asleep by like 10:30 at night.
I'm not though, because I'm gonna be having a wonderful time. I'm gonna be so excited that I just won so much money. I'm gonna stay up until 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm gonna wake up at 5 and be like, "Fuck, why did I do that?"
Well, before we get out of here, I mean, we went almost an hour covering showdown and prop bets. You want to give a pick on the game?
No, I don't. That was the whole thing I said at the beginning. I fucking don't know.
Well,
I'm gonna go Eagles. I'm gonna go Eagles. Just I'll take the 1.5. I guess if I really wanted to bet it, I could bet a teaser and get them plus 7.5 because I don't see them losing by more than a touchdown, and then maybe throw the under on a teaser. So if gun to my head, if I had to bet it, I wouldn't probably just bet the 1.5. I'd probably take a teaser because I'm a pussy.
I'm not going to bet the Chiefs minus 1.5, but that is my lean in the game, and
I
I
agree, but I'm
am.
not doing it.
I'm not doing it either. Again, it's not fun. If I do place a bet on a side, it will be Eagles all on, and
Yeah,
maybe
I,
them
I do
winning
I do
by
see that being in play.
6.5, 9.5, something like that. Where for whatever reason, Chiefs come out and lay an egg, or just the Eagles are just that much better. I don't see the Eagles winning a close game. I don't think anybody beats Mahomes in close games. If
No, I
they
think he's
win,
like he's won his last, what is it, 13 one possession games, I think it was, something like that.
yeah, and it's a lifetime ago in terms of quarterback life, but the Bucks blew them out of the water.
Oh yeah.
So those are definitely in play. But more than anything, get some bets in. Throw a group parlay together with your boys, and everyone go out there and win some money and enjoy the game. It's going to be a long one, and hopefully it's entertaining.
Absolutely. All right, Dave. Thanks for joining, bud.
Absolutely, man. Thanks again. We'll
Yep.
uh we'll be back again for golf at some point, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. We definitely got to get the gang back together. It's long overdue.
I'll see you at the Masters.
There we go. All right, so that's going to do it for this week. We are ready for the Super Bowl. Definitely excited for it. And as Dave alluded to, we have a long golf season ahead of us. So we will have every tournament covered going forward. But hopefully we can hit an outright at the Waste Management, roll that over into a first touchdown, and then a single game parlay at the Super Bowl, and then maybe call out of work on Monday. But that's going to do it for me. As always, check out thehelmsports.com. Check out the My Bets tab. Everything will be up there. If you want the same numbers I get, as we said, some of these numbers have changed over the last week. The second I make a bet, it goes into the Mad Lab MMA Discord. So check out the madlabmma.com. You can get access there. Big card this weekend. Lab will have everything covered there. But that's going to do it for this week. As always, thank you for listening. I'm your host, Derek Helm. And remember,
Just have fun out there.